Ahmed Masoud is a novelist, joins us from London. Ahmed, it's so good to have you back with us. We always wish it were under better circumstances, but thank you for joining us again on the Electronic Intifada.
Thank you, Nora, and thanks everybody. Yes, I agree. I wish it was better circumstances for sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Ahmed. Thank you for for joining us.
Hi, Ali. Hi, Asa. Hi, John.
Just reading your tweets over the last several weeks, you've been trying to figure out how your family is able to find safety in Gaza. Can you give us an update on your family right now and what they're going through at this moment?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's been incredibly difficult. It got worse actually since the humanitarian pause that we had, because my mum left the north and went to the south, along with three of my siblings. And I actually heard today, like just today, I heard that she's now in a tent somewhere in open land in the Al-Mawasi area, which is by the beach. A tent made out of plastic, incredibly cold, doesn't have enough blankets. And my sister messaged and said that she was crying a lot, and it just broke my heart, really. Because to start with, she moved to my uncle's house in the south in Khan Yunis. But then they had to leave because they had evacuations orders, leaflets dropped on them from the Israeli army. So they left to Al-Mawasi area, which is by the beach. So can you imagine this open, bare land with nothing in it, right on the beach? And I think you know the area, and I think you may have seen sort of pictures of it. There's absolutely nothing in there. So it's really sad to hear that. And really stressful as well, because just knowing that if a bomb won't kill them, I think the cold and the weather and the illness that they will develop will, for sure. And my mum is old and tired, and it's got so many health complications as well. The rest of the family are in the north. They're still in Jabalia camp, and they are, in a way, kind of the situation sort of reversed a little bit in there, where sort of the actual tanks have kind of withdrew from Jabalia camp, but it is like continuous bombing and these new things that came up in this war, which are called quadcopters. I don't know if you've heard about them. The quadcopters are some sort of robot that basically is like a drone. It's a mixture between a drone and a helicopter, and it basically just goes and shoots people and attacks non-stop. But it's very, very random as well. It's very, very hard to get in touch with my brother and sister who are still in Jabalia camp. The last time I heard from them was 2 days ago, and I haven't had any news from them. They have barely any access to food or water. My brother's house was destroyed completely. My sister's house was destroyed completely. So they're in a difficult position, because not only they can't find food or water, but also they can't even find clothes to wear. In a sense, it's cold now. They've lost their home, so they can't go back and pick up stuff. I don't know if you saw, but I tweeted a number of videos from my niece and my brother himself just inspecting his house, and there was a touching moment where my niece was just pulling her toy out of the rubble, which was really heartbreaking, to be honest with you.
I can't even imagine.
Ahmed, listening to you, it's unbearable thinking about your mother. I remember last time we spoke in November, you talked about how your brother was asking you whether or not to evacuate and turning to you for advice, because people just don't know what to do in that situation. And you also spoke about the difficulty your mother would have moving just physically. And in the one sense, I'm glad to hear that she got somewhere else. It's utterly appalling. I just think of if my own mother, if any of our mothers were in those circumstances, and how unbearable this all is. But just to think also that your story, which is so difficult and so horrifying and so overwhelming, is the story of millions of people, that literally everyone in Gaza is going through something just as bad, if not worse, And that's the thing that I think is just impossible to wrap our heads around, and that this is going on and on and on, that it's been going on now. We're in the 4th month, and there's no moving on from it, because the horror is only getting worse for people in Gaza.
That's right. Yes, and there are the more we go deeper in this, the more complications are coming out of obviously winter is biting. In the next couple of days, we're expecting to have a sort of a low pressure hitting the entire region, and Gaza will be affected a lot. There are the complications, obviously, of not just the food and water, but also people lost touch with dear ones. They haven't had communication with them some of them for weeks and weeks. They don't know what is happening and what has happened to their loved ones. I heard today from a friend whose cousin had a heart attack and died because she hadn't heard from her children for about 4 weeks. Those stories that are never going to be reported. Those stories that actually will be ingrained in our sort of memories forever, but they'll never be reported because they're not a direct casualty of war. She died because of a heart attack because she can't get hold of her children. My own sister, she's in the south. She made it to the south, and her kids are still in the north because she is separated from her husband. She has no news from them whatsoever, and they're very young. And I asked her today, and I was really worried about her answer, but she has no idea at all. Even until now, it continues for me personally. So my brother today was asking me about the news. So I have to connect everybody together. I have family in the north, I have family in the middle, I have family in the south. They have no communication with each other. It's very rare. I spend a lot of time trying to kind of work out eSIMs for them. One of my nephew or niece manages to connect for a bit, and then it disconnects, and it's been an absolute challenge from that perspective. And I think the worst part is that you just don't know. You just don't know what is going to happen in the next hour or two, or days, or a complete blackout, and you don't know how you're going to come out on the other side, to be honest with you. And I think so many other complications that nobody knows what they're going to be as things unfold and continue to happen. A couple of my nieces, they're studying to be doctors. Their university has been completely destroyed. So I've been asking them, like, can you send me your papers so I can try and find you a place somewhere else? Maybe I'll apply for a scholarship for you and I can try and help. They can't even log in to get to their details, to get their papers. There's nothing to prove that they're actually. One of my nieces is a 4th-year medical student at Al-Azhar University, which has completely been destroyed. The online server doesn't work. All of these little details that are not, of course, so important in the grand scheme of things. It's not a massive casualty, but it's a life being destroyed altogether. And what else is happening to other people as well, and all of those different stories that we will never hear about either.
Yeah. We wanted to play for our viewers and listeners one of those videos that you put on your Twitter of your family members. So let's go to that. This is your niece, Ahmed?
That's right. Her name is Aya. She's 9 years old. No, wait, 11. Sorry, 11.
And you can hear the sound of the drones in the background there. It never goes away.
No.
She found a stuffed animal under the rubble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is in Jabalia?
That's in Jabalia. That's right. That's their house where I stayed in many times. And that's her sister Hiyam, my niece, and that's my brother Khalid. And he lost so much weight. I mean, just looking at him like this, and you can hear the drone, and in a bit you'll hear all the bombing just very close.
And did they stay in Jabalia, or did they leave and then come back? What?
No, they stayed in Jabalia. Nobody could go back. There's no way of going back. I don't know if you remember during the, I don't know if you heard that bomb going off, but during the humanitarian pause that lasted for a week, some people tried to go back from the south to the north, but they were shot on Salahuddin Street. So nobody who has left to the south is able to go back at all. Israel doesn't allow it. But
Yeah,
sorry, go
sorry.
ahead.
Yeah, no, I wanted to ask Ahmed if you have a sense of how many people stayed in Jabalia, because Israel is always trying to claim that, you know, everyone left the north, and of course, we know a lot of people did, but a lot of people did stay. Do you have a sense of how many stayed? Were your family exceptional, or was this more common?
No. I mean, I think what I'm hearing from my own brother, and I've got another cousin who's quite active actually in the kind of community, helping out in the community, going to schools and refugee centers, and the estimate is 400,000 people stayed in the north. That's what everybody's saying. That's from my brother and my cousin, but also from the official stats that are coming out from Gaza as well. At the moment, the estimation is that it's about 1.9 million people are in the south, sort of like from the middle onwards, from the Sayrat onwards, and then about 400K left in Gaza. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and Ahmed, of course, hunger, starvation, in some cases, no clean water, no fuel, no medicine, a collapsed healthcare system. That's the case across Gaza. But it would seem to me that the situation would be particularly dire in the north because Israel has divided Gaza from north to south. How are people managing to meet basic needs? You said your brother looks like he's lost a lot of weight. People obviously aren't eating what they should be, but how are they finding ways to cope at all? What are you learning about that?
So there's a lot, well, two things. One, somehow there is a bit of water and like some supplies that come in, but very, very basic. And those supplies are some aid supplies that somehow came in from the south. And also places that storage, like, you know, like warehouses and things like that haven't been bombed. What my brother told me was like a lot of it is canned food, like canned sardines and things like that, that people are sort of buying from the market, but they're incredibly, incredibly expensive. And people have also, the other problem is that people have run out of cash, so they can't even get cash out of cash machines. There are no cash machines. I can't even send money to them right now in the north, or even in the south, to be honest with you. It's incredibly hard. I'm desperate to send money to them to help them out, but they can't get that money physically. So people are getting together as a sense of community. So if you've got somebody on the street, so my brother has moved somewhere else now, and there's kind of a sense of community where they find like a sack of flour, they bake bread for the whole street and distribute it. You get a couple of cans from the market that came in through an aid truck or something like that. Somebody buys it and cooks in like a big stew and distributes it. Water is very, very, very challenging. So my brother tells me he has to leave at 5 a.m. every morning under the sound of drones and bullets and bombs, etc., and queue up. There is only one pump still, like there's a well, somebody's got a well in there and there is a pump in there, and they have to queue up for hours and hours until they get the water. So that is how they're surviving at the moment. But so far, there's been nothing really. I mean, Jabalia town itself, not Jabalia camp, but Jabalia town, it is farmland. So there's quite a bit of well, there are a lot of farms in there. So there's a bit of agriculture in there. Of course, a lot of it was damaged and destroyed already, but there are a bit of pockets of sort of some vegetation still going on, and like some tomatoes, potatoes, and things like that, you know. Well, not tomatoes now because it's winter, but more kind of winter vegetables and root vegetables, I suppose. But that's, yeah, you know, kind of trying hard to make do with what they can at the moment.
And I mean, what about like medical care? You know, your mother is in a plastic tent in Mawasi, kind of vulnerable to the elements. It's getting, you talked about how it's getting cold. Is there any sort of medical care that she or your other family members are able to receive?
There is none, unfortunately. My niece, my very young niece, another niece, she is about 1.5 years old. She's had a fever for about a week, and you can't even get painkillers. Just forget it. Like you don't even try. You don't even go to hospital or a doctor or anything because they're full. They're crowded. So in Khan Yunis, the only hospital left there is Nasser Hospital, and that is really crowded now with injuries and casualties. So people don't go at all. And also now the issue now Israel has attacked so many hospitals. Those places have become dangerous places. So people try to avoid them naturally, and I think that's what they wanted in the first place. So where before hospitals were kind of a safe haven in a sense, now they've become dangerous places, and people are trying to avoid them. They've attacked the hospital today in Deir al-Balah. I don't know if you heard about it, 𝐓𝐡𝐞 𝐄𝐥𝐞𝐜.
Yeah.
So it's really, really difficult. And I think that is a lot of people are practically dying because of that, sort of developing illnesses and diseases as a result. In the north, there's nothing, there's absolutely nothing in terms of medical aid. So there is Al-Shifa Hospital still in operation, but that's in Gaza City, and you have to think that my family are in Jabalia camp. So Kamal Adwan Hospital was also bombed, so it's operating at the moment with very, very, very limited capacity. And then all the clinics in Jabalia were also attacked, and the UNRWA clinics were also attacked. So there is a bit, but only for urgent cases and the injured, I suppose.
Oh, go ahead, Ali.
Ahmed, we know from our own experience that communications with Gaza are very difficult, that people don't have easy access to the internet or even sometimes to the phone networks. They have to travel long distances sometimes to find internet, and then they can use it for a few minutes, and then we don't hear from them again, sometimes for days. That has got to be particularly difficult when it's your mother, your brothers, your close family. My question is do you have a sense from your family and people you're in touch with in Gaza of, for example, you said that they can't communicate easily with each other. You're the connection. My question is, how much information do they get about the overall situation, what's happening across Gaza, what's happening militarily, what's happening with the resistance, and what's happening in the outside world? Do you have a sense of that?
I mean, they don't. Only yesterday, my brother was asking me to update him with the news, and he was saying, "Oh, I heard that Blinken is in the region. Has anything happened, etc." So I was actually sending him headlines of what has been happening and all the discussions with around Blinken and his meetings in the Gulf and all of these things. No, they don't. In general, they don't. And I sort of tweeted about that, and I said that they are the news, but they don't know the news. That's the irony of it, in a sense. There are local radios that sort of update in terms of casualties, and so they're still in operations. And there are some of the kind of Telegram channels that they follow, and I follow as well, and they get some news from there. And what they do is that they sort of walk to a certain area with connection, usually like a hospital or something, especially if they're in the south. Download the news, go and read it, and then get up to date, and then basically come back again a couple of days later when they can. I also tweeted another picture of that. My niece went to this area, it was full of people. It was like so dystopic in a sense of people just wait on their screens, looking at their pictures. And she took that picture to show me because we were trying to work out an eSIM, and she was like, "Come on, hurry up! I have to go. There are so many people. I can't wait here any longer." And yeah, so they are disconnected, but they get some news, I suppose, because once they get the connection, there is plenty of journalists still on the ground in Gaza, even though a lot of them have been targeted and killed, but somehow there's still more updating with their news channels and Telegram channels, and they get those. But often, as I said, they are the news, but they don't know the news because often it's too late. It's out of date because a lot of other things have happened since they caught up. But I suppose the kind of wider picture of what is happening, and this has been one of the difficult things, is in terms of the Israeli presence in Gaza, as in military tanks. They don't know that. And there were many cases and incidents where one of my friend's family, for example, tried to go back from Gaza City to Jabalia camp, and they got shot on the way because they thought that it's safe and the Israelis have left, etc. But they didn't know. They just don't know. I think I feel like we need a live app tracker of the Israeli tanks or where they are, because at the moment in the north they withdraw, but they come back any minute, And like I said, there are the quadcopters and the drones, so they're constantly monitoring the entire region, and they can shoot at anybody. So that's been the really most dangerous thing for people, not knowing where the Israeli tanks are and the soldiers and kind of incursions.
One thing I'm seeing someone raising in the comments, but I wanted to ask you about as well, Ahmed, is the stories that Egypt or Egyptian officials are charging $10,000, sometimes more, $14,000 to allow people out of Gaza, and these are presumably people who can only leave because they have the proper paperwork, whether it's a medical permission or what have you. And I've heard stories from other people who've told us that that's a long-standing issue, the sort of bribery and corruption and exploitation of people in this horrifying situation. But for it to be happening during a genocide and for them to be exploiting the situation to demand even more money, are people talking about that? What's your reaction to that, and what are you hearing about it?
They are talking about it, and to be honest, I don't know anybody who used that service at all. If it does really exist, and if the figures are correct, I'm not 100% sure about that. But like you said, there is a history of exploitation and bribery in that regard. Back in 2009, when the siege was really tight on Gaza, I nearly paid about $700 to get out of Gaza because I was stuck in Gaza I couldn't leave, the border closed, and I was there for 6 months almost. And I nearly paid about $700 at that time in 2009. So it wouldn't surprise me if that happens. But again, this is not official, and we must stress that it is not an Egyptian government policy. This is just, individuals who may be doing this. And as I said, I don't know how accurate it is. I think it is likely that it's some individuals who are doing it on their own kind of accords. And again, like that happens naturally in any sort of conflict situation where there are people who will take advantage of others. I think that is natural. But I don't think there are any confirmed reports about it that this is actually the process.
I know that it has. I remember that our dear friend Rifat a couple of years ago had told me that he wanted to leave Gaza for a trip, for a book tour. I don't remember the exact circumstances, and that at that time it was being demanded of him that he pay thousands of dollars because I think there was some asterisk next to his name, let's say, in the Egyptian database or whoever runs the border. So it's certainly something that has been an issue for years. But I can understand also that in the current context, there's probably a lot of rumors mixed with truth, and it's very hard to untangle one from the other.
This is the thing. I mean, the point is the Rafah border is one crossing only, and I think we keep forgetting that. Gaza has a minimum of 13 border points with Israel. as an occupying force, Israel has a duty to let people through the border for humanitarian reasons as well. I am not by any means defending Egypt or their policy or position on this. Of course, everybody is to blame in here, the whole international community, and how they've kind of stood aside and watched the genocide happening in Gaza. But also, I think it's always a debate that kind of conflates things and facts in a sense, because yes, Egypt is wrong and not opening the border and not pushing for opening it. In fact, they did open it, they kept it open, and Israel bombed it a number of times. And we know that at the beginning. And they reopened it and they bombed it again, and Israel bombed it again. But also Israel has borders with Gaza. You can't collectively punish 2.3 million people for whatever reason it is. There are humanitarian issues there. There are people who need to leave for humanitarian reasons, and they should have, and they have a duty to allow them access. But people just don't talk about that, unfortunately, and just kind of focus the debate around Egypt and their policies and how they're doing it, etc. So I'm obviously angry if this practice exists and is true. It would make me really, really angry. And I'm sure it exists in some way, but also I think we need to look at the wider picture in there, that actually the real reason is Israel. It's not Egypt. The real reason why people are suffering over there is Israel, not Egypt.
Yeah. And I've got a story coming out about someone here in the US who's trying to get their immediate family members out of Gaza. And, they've been appealing to their elected representatives who are, completely just washing their hands of any responsibility, saying that it's the State Department's, responsibility. The State Department isn't doing anything. And so people are, going to GoFundMe to try and raise money to get their family members out, when it should be, they shouldn't have to be doing that. It should be, it should be open for anybody. It's just, it's unconscionable. Ahmed, how are you doing personally? You're so far away from your family. You're, you must be up at all hours of the night trying to make sure that they're okay, and trying to coordinate eSIMs, or tell them what's going on. When how are you doing with all of this?
Thank you. I mean, it's not a question I often get asked, to be honest with you, because the first question is, how's your family? And I think that is the right question, I suppose. It's been really difficult, actually. It's been very, very difficult. I found yesterday was very overwhelming, incredibly overwhelming, because what you said, like what I described earlier, trying to help everybody, trying to support everybody, reading the news. I have a full-time job, still working, family here, like all of that, and just kind of trying to stay afloat. I did tweet at some point, and I still feel the same, that I feel like almost a piece of tissue thrown on fire, and it just kind of dances in the smoke a little bit, and at some point it's going to land on that fire and burn. And I think that is still the feeling. I haven't fallen on the flames and burned yet, but I feel it's getting closer and closer every day, to be honest with you. It's really tough. Like, it's now tougher than before. Now hope is disappearing. It's taking longer. More and more things are destroyed. People are dying. I mean, losing Rifat, I was in mourning for, like, that was very painful, very, very painful. I had to go home and just pretend, when I heard the news, I was outside, and I had to pretend that to my kids that nothing was happening. I had to go home and just go straight to the bedroom and just not talk to them, and because I couldn't even open my mouth at that time. So more pain and more, it's almost like the wound is getting bigger and bigger and going into different parts of your body. I found, following actually Rifat's death, I never wrote poetry, and I sort of started writing it now somehow, but mostly sort of short, small poems that I've put on social media. And I found them very, very therapeutic, just kind of really following on his footsteps. we did talk about that before, and I did say I'm not a poet. I can never write poetry. I love it, but I just don't know how to write it. I write fiction and drama and long stories. I can talk forever, but not succinct, beautiful words put together. But I found that recently actually quite really therapeutic. Just sort of like to sit down and focus about a small kind of thing and a feeling, just one feeling of, anything, love and other stuff about the war and when the war ends and how things. So that's been really helpful, I suppose. I continue to swim in cold water every day in the Serpentine in Hyde Park. It's 4 degrees today, 4 Celsius, with the air temperature of -2. Just getting a near-death experience so I can feel alive again, but also to feel how lucky I am and how privileged I am. There was I took a picture of the water and I put it. There's this big group called the Outdoor Swimming Society on Facebook. It's got about 130k people, fellow swimmers who swim outdoors, crazy nutters like me who swim in freezing water, and they're all over the world, but mostly in the UK. It's a UK group. And the picture, there is an admin, and the picture took ages to be approved by the admin. And just as I was about to message them and say what's happening, they kind of put it up, and then I saw in the comments that a lot of people objected to what I wrote there, because my post said that, swimming in this water, I was just thinking of how lucky and privileged that I'm swimming in this vast body of water in the Serpentine Lake in Hyde Park, while my family in Gaza can't find a drink of water. And it just made me feel connected to them, and I wish I could swim all the way to them and make them feel better. And give them a hug and something. And there was massive complaints in there about that this is a political post. And it shouldn't be. This group is about swimming in cold water. And
you should have said they were in Ukraine. No one would have complained then.
I nearly did it, to be honest with you. But I mean, to the admin's credit, they kind of didn't delete the post and actually commented on the picture saying, no, this is the right post. This is about how he feels, and it is correct, and we're gonna leave it there whether you like it or not. So they didn't delete the post, I suppose, but it's just people on social media, they just can write whatever. But it's just a reminder of how people sometimes think that you don't deserve to live, you don't deserve this. It's actually like, if you read the comments, some of them, like, they would just make you feel like you don't deserve to have a life like that. And it's a reminder that actually there are some people who really, really are just racist by DNA.
That your very existence is a sort of political act, a sort of attack on them.
Right.
Yeah, a lot actually. And I mean, I think that's an I think about how hard this is for you, particularly Ahmed, being away from your family, but we're in touch with many Palestinians from Gaza like you who are now in the UK or in the US or in Ireland, and we've spoken to some of them on this live stream, and some of them write for the Electronic Intifada regularly. And right now I'm actually in Amman in Jordan, and it's so nice to be in a place where people don't want you dead just for being Palestinian, where you feel surrounded by people who largely feel the same way you do. And that's such a change. I think, in a sense, we internalize the hatred as well, in the sense that we think, well, actually, we don't deserve better in a way. I mean, of course, we don't believe that, but you start to expect those reactions. And I think sometimes getting out of places like the US or the UK, if you can, where those are the real strongholds of Zionism, sometimes Canada too. I don't want John to feel left out. But sometimes you need that, if you're lucky enough to be able to travel, you need that to remind you that actually humanity is on our side. The world is on our side. And it's something we have to remind ourselves.
But it's interesting, Ali, because I think what is happening now is even worse because people have galvanized in a sense. There is a split now about the ceasefire and the kind of the genocide. There's people who are against it, and there are a lot of people are against it, but there are people for it. This is the difference. It's not like I'm in between. I'm not so sure. Do you know what I mean? Like it's either you're against it or for it, which I find incredible. Like, and you see that a lot, not just on social media, but you see that even on the news. I mean, you saw a lot of people saw the interview with Mustafa Barghouti, for example, that Talk TV journalist, for example. That's somebody who's pro-genocide. Right?
Yeah.
It's clear, so I find that fascinating. It's not just like, oh, I'm on the fence. Maybe the Palestinian question was before. I don't understand. It's complicated. I don't think people now say that it's complicated and I don't understand and I don't know where I stand. Essentially, no, I'm against this genocide. I'm against these war crimes and wars against humanity. Or actually, Israel has the right to defend itself and therefore they should carry on. What do you expect them to do? All of that bullshit argument that is leading to what we're seeing right now, and it's actually from an anthropological perspective, it's fascinating. Once 10 years down the line or something, to actually see how people can be galvanized like that. But I again, like I said last time on this program, I blame the media. I really blame the Western media because they continue to give cover to this. They continue to push that agenda of genocide non-stop, every day, more subtly now than they did before, but they continue to do it.
Yeah. Well, Ahmed Masoud, we want to thank you for coming back on the live stream and updating us on your family. And I think we all resonated with that image, that metaphor that you had about being the tissue paper that's kind of dancing above the flames very delicately. And I think we're all in that mindset at the moment. And I really appreciate you putting words to that feeling, as you do as a novelist, as a poet, as an educator. Thank you so much, Ahmed, and we'll be back in touch with you very soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here.
All our love to you and to your family and to all the Palestinians from Gaza who are around the world separated from their families. We're thinking of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ali, and everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.